Hello there and welcome back to our Python tutorial. We've not done this in a long while, but we started with string, with integers, with float, and then we went to functions and sets and list. And today we're going to do a teeny tiny project. We're going to create a simple calculator with Python, a simple calculator. At the end of this tutorial, you should be able to create yours. And I would encourage you to take on simple projects that you can do in Python, either creating an alarm clock, a tic-tac-toe game, or a calculator. So at the end of this tutorial, you should be able to add. See, when we add 12, subtract, get -2, multiply, 35, and divide 0.7. 0.7. So let's get started. Python. And welcome back. The first thing that we're going to do is to install our widget. In order for us to create a graphic user interface calculator, we have to install this widget to enable us create an interactive widget within the Jupyter Notebook. So if you don't already have it installed or you already have it installed, you can check just to be sure and install the widget. See, we already have it installed. And then the next thing is that we have to import the widget after you install the IP widget as widget. And then the next thing we have to import our display from Python. So from Python, so this is we've imported the widgets that we installed above. So then you have to think of what you want your calculator to do. You want your calculator to have four functions: to be able to add, to be able to subtract, to be able to multiply, and to be able to divide. So, in the previous video, we talked about functions. If you have not watched that video, you can click the link above and you should be able to watch the video. So, these are our four functions we want to be able to add. So, we have two entries, two numbers, A and B, and we want to return A plus B. We want to return A minus B or A multiplied by B. And then we want to divide. You know that if you want to divide, you cannot divide by zero. So we want there to raise a value error that you cannot divide by zero. Otherwise, you return A divided by B. So those are our functions. You can usually run the function to be sure. So if I say add and then I give 5 and 7, I'm calling the function add. And if I run that, you see we have 12. So that those are our functions. The next thing that you want to do is to create the input widget. That is where you would enter the numbers that you want to add. So now let's create our input widget. We want two input widgets. So this is the first number and then the second number. Next, we'll want to create the buttons. This is the buttons that you would click on: the add, the subtract, the multiply, and the divide buttons. So you have to create in step by step. First, we've made the numbers for you to enter, the boxes for you to enter the number. And now we want to create the buttons that you would click for your operation. Take note of this. But this is what you use for your add buttons. It is widget dot button. Remember, we imported IPY widget as widget. So when you want to call it, you use widget. Whatever you import it as is what you would use to create your input or to create your buttons. So see widget dot float text because our numbers might be float, and then add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And we also put our description. So far, we've had the functions for our add, subtract, multiply, and then we've had the input widget and also the buttons. And then we would have to create our results label. That is the label for showing the result. And then we use the same widgets that we're always calling. So widget, this is for our label. So results label equals to widget dot label. So let's even visualize what we have. Let's even display this widget, all these widgets we've created. Although they would not do anything as of now, but we just want to see what it looks like. So now if I run this, yeah, you see, this is our widget. You see, this is our number one, our number two, and this is the add button, subtract button, multiply and divide. You use widget.buttons to create buttons, widget.labels to create labels, and widget.flow text for the text. You see, currently now it would not do anything because we've not connected the functions to our buttons. Let's do that now. Now, let's connect the buttons to our functions. We'll use for functions to do this. So on, when you click the add button, click. What do I want it to do? I want it to perform the operation, and I want it to also take note of if there's an error, like if it's the wrong thing that is inputted into the text box. So I want it to try result equals to add. What am I adding? The number one and then the number two. So num one dot the value of what is inputted, and num two the value, the value of the second, and then what do I want as the result? So I want my, we've created our result label, and then result label dot value, because what is the value of the result label is then equals to what I want it to be, like a string, a concatenation of string. So result plus plus string result. Yes. So this is what I wanted to do. You get the numbers, your result, then you add this add is this function, the value for num1 and num2, and then the result label prints out the result and the string. But what if there's an error? I want it to accept the error. So if there's an error, then I want it to also show the error and then the string, the value of the error. So this is how we do it for the AND. It is similar to what we'll do for multiply, divide, and subtract. Just take the function here and then our two values and then put them in the result label. So I'm going to add the three other functions now. So this is our three other functions. So on subtract button, on multiply button, on divide button. So when you click this, this is what it should do. So now we have that. So let's assign this to this, our buttons to the click function. So I will do that is we then have what is the name of our button. We say add button, subtract button, multiply button, divide button. So let's take the add button dot on click. So what happens when we click this? We want it to perform this function when we click the button. So you put it in the bracket. This is what I wanted. My add button, that is the button that I created. When you click it, perform this function. And this function calls the AND function, which I created above, and returns A plus B. So we have to do the same for the rest for subtract, multiply, and divide. So we have the subtract. Same thing when you click on the subtract button, what does it do? It goes to the function on subtract button click, which is this, and then it goes to the subtract function that we already made, which is this, and then it subtract. So we have like 8 functions in total. We first create the function that does the arithmetic operation that adds, subtracts, multiply, and divides. And then we create our input widget. That's where you input your data. You create your buttons, the buttons that you would click, and then you add your description, what shows on the button, and then you create your result label, which will show below when we have a result, and then you then what you want to happen when you click the buttons. So you want your result to add the num1 and num2 from your widget, and then does the same for the rest. And when you click the button, it goes to the function, goes to the Apple function, and then you get your results. So when we have all this, this is what we use to display the widget. Yeah, so display, and then let's run this, and there you see. So we have 10 and we have 50, for example. And you click on and, so you get your result as 60, subtract minus 40, multiply 500, and divide 0.2. So that's basically how you create a simple calculator. There are other methods to do this, but I like this because of the GUI, the graphic user interface. So let me know, will you be trying to create this the calculator, or what other project, tiny project you would like me to work on? And I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Hello there and welcome back. My name is Fumilayo from Beth Media, and welcome to our Python project for beginners. In this Python project, we will be creating the Eggman game completely in Python. So we would be able to select letters and we'll be able to get like a visual animation, but not exactly like this, but I'll show you in a second. So what the library we'll be working with is random. So first we have to import random, and then we need the list of words that we would like to choose from. So you can set as many words as you like, or you can also do like import a CSV file with the words that you would like to use for your Eggman game and then select from it. So this is my word list, Python, Eggman programming, etc. So then what I would like to then do is to chosen word is equals to random. So I want to be able to choose at random my word list. So word list. Yeah, so this will choose at random any of the words in this list for our Eggman game. So now to initialize my variables, so I want to set like a maximum number of attempts so the game doesn't go on forever. So these are the variables. My guesses will be in a list, and this is the maximum number of attempts. And then it will start counting the attempts as people start inputting their attempts. Another thing that I would like to do is to show visuals. So then I have to like show the drawing of the stages of the hangman. And so I've added the stages of the hangman game. So this is the first stage when you get a letter wrong. Second stage you get the head, the throat, the ends, and then the legs, and that's the end of the game. So now we have to make our loop. We'll be using a while loop. So while true, what do we want it to do? We want it to print the Hangman stages while it's true. And then we want to show our display word. I make this an empty string. We would use it later. So for letter in chosen word, remember that our chosen word is what we have here that we're choosing at random. So for letter in chosen word, then if letter in guesses, then we want to display word First letter. Else, let's play word. Yes, so if our letter is in the guesses, then we'll display word. We add the letter, otherwise we put like a dash. And then we would print our display word. Now we want to be able to ask for guesses. We want to be able to allow the user to be able to input their guesses. So we'll do that by using our input. So guess equals to input, get a letter, and then want to convert it into a lowercase. After they've input their letter, the next thing is to check if their letter is correct, that if their guess is valid, is what we have. So there are two things that you might consider, that if the letter that they enter, if it is more than one, if it's not equal to one, or if it is not like a letter, if they enter like a number, we want to send a message that please enter a single letter. Just trying to make sure that our guesses are valid. And then we also want to check if there's like a repetition. If a person enters a letter more than once, we should also be able to like raise a message that, oh, you've entered the previous letter before. So now I want to check if it's the repeat. So if guess is in guesses, that's the guess is the input. If it's in guesses, yeah, this is the list that we're creating for the entry. Then you should write that you've already guessed that letter. And now we want to append our guess into the list that we created at the beginning. So as they're entering their letters, we want to append it into this list. So then we want to check if our guess, when we have all the letters, if they are in the word. So we also have to add a condition that if it's correct or if it is a wrong guess. So if guess in chosen word, and then we'll print correct. But if it's not, then we'll print the wrong guess. I know after anytime we do this, we set like a limit for attempt. The maximum attempt is 6. So we'll initialize anytime there's an attempt, and when it gets to 6, we want to stop the game. So we use that again. We're using lots of if statements. So now we check that if this is not in displayed word, we want to print that congratulations. That's if the attempt is done. And then if our attempt is greater than the maximum attempt, then we want to print that, oh, you've run out of attempts. So you see the display word is the word that the empty string that we made here. So anytime there's a letter, it's appended added to the string. And when we don't have this anymore in our string, then we put like a congratulation. You have won the game. You guessed the word. So now let's run this. So now guess the letter. Remember that it's chosen at random from what we have above. So if I enter, for example, let's say F, is it correct? We get correct. We put correct here, that if our guess is in the chosen word that we got at random here. So if our guess is in the chosen word, it should print correct, which is what it did here. It's a guess a letter, and we guessed the letter, and then we got correct. And you see the next, we have the dash is being replaced by F. So now let's get another letter. See S. You see wrong guess, which is what we said here, that if it's a wrong guess, and then now our attempt is now 1. When we get to 6, the game will stop. Next, we have to guess another letter. Let's guess U, for example. See, we guessed it correct, so that is correct. And let's guess another letter. This is wrong. This is a wrong guess. I. Yeah, this is correct. E. The wrong guess is it building the Angman. And now you see I've already entered U. If I do that again, you see you already guessed that letter, which is what we put here, that if guess is in guesses, print you've already guessed that letter. Our guess is what we're entering, and then our guesses is the list that we made here. So it checks if our entry is in this list, and then it prints out that you've already guessed this letter. Let's keep guessing. That is correct. This is my name. Let's keep, and that is correct. And Let me do this first one where we guess everything correctly, and then we can test for when we do the wrong one. If you see, yeah, we had to make a wrong guess even after we've gotten all our guesses correctly before we got the congratulation message. I do not want this to be so. I want it that immediately we've gotten the correct answer, I would like it to display the congratulations message. So what I can do is move this. So before you ask for a guess, I want it to be able to check if there is not this. So before it asks for a guess, I want it to check if this is not in the display word before it then asks for a guess. And then if it's not in the display word, then this will be, and then it continues. So this is the way I want to solve this. So our while loop still stays the same, but before asking for any input. So every time the while loop runs, before it asks for the input, it first checks. Maybe there's a gap in the display word and then it prints congratulations. So let's try again. So let's guess our word. We have R and then P. We have G, and this is programming. And see now the final letter, we should get the congratulation message immediately I hit enter. Yes. So before asking us to guess a letter. And if we run it again, so now I'm just going to be entering the wrong letter so we can see the message that will. You see our hangman is building. Mm, yes, so you see we have run out of attempts. So this is the ways to build your hangman game. As you can see, you can update it, you can set it to the way you want it to be displayed, what you want to appear first, your conditions, and then you have your hangman game. Hello there, and welcome back to our Python project for beginners. My name is Fumilayo from Beth Media, and today we will be doing something exciting. We will be translating to different languages in Python. We'll be making use of this library, which is a powerful command line translator with Google Translate behind it. And also, we'll be making use of languages shortcode because this is the code we'll be using to translate our languages. This is going to be exciting. Let's begin. We will be using our Jupyter notebook. The first thing that we have to do is to install our translate library. So pip install translate. And we already have it installed already. So we might need to restart the kernel. So let's do that. And now we'll have to import our library. So from translate, we'd like to import translator. So what I would like to do is to have like an input that takes in the translate text, either word or phrases, and then the user then selects the or writes in the language that they would want to translate that text to, and then we get the results below. So those are the three things. We take the word, we insert the language we want to translate our word or phrase to, and then we get our results. So first, let's write our function to translate the text or phrases depending on what you want. So this is our function translate text. We have our text and then our target language. So we have our translator and we're translating, we'll put in the target language that we want to translate it to. And then the library that we imported, translator dot our translate text. So now let's run a loop. We want this loop to continuously run while we're translating our text. So while our loop still stands, while it is true, what do I want? I want the user to input their word or phrase. So let's have enter a word of phrase to translate. And then I don't want it to like just run continuously. I want the user to be able to like stop it anytime they want to stop it. So I'll queue to quit. So when the user enters queue, the while loop will stop running. Let's put that. So if user input dot lower is equal to queue, then I want like everything to stop. So that is like kind of like our stop button by entering queue. Now the other thing, I said now we've taken the word or the phrase that we want to translate. The next thing is now to what language do we want to translate it to? So then we have our target language that we're using in our function above language. I also want the user to be able to input the language that they want. Let me copy this so it can be fast. So input a word, input the target language. Language. And I want to give like example because for this we are going to input the shortcode. So for example, FR for French. FR for French. So you say we have the input, we have the break, the to quit the while loop, and then we have the input for the target language. So now let's now call our function that does the translate in our while loop. So we then have translation equals to, this is our function, translate text, and then we have the user input, which is our text, and then the target language. Target language. And now I want to print out my result, to print out the translated text. So let's go over it again. First, we installed the library, and then we imported translator from this, and then we now have our function translate text that takes our user input and then the target language, the language we're planning to translate to, and then we have translator. Using translator, we're setting the target language that we're translating it to lang. This is stated in the library to translate to. So it's something we're using there. And then we then return translator dot the translate of our text. So then there's now a while loop that we have the user input. You enter a word or phrase to translate, or you enter queue to quit. And then if the user enters queue, it breaks. We have our target language. You enter your target language, shortcode, and then you run your function. and then you print out the translation. So now if I run this, we see an error, and that is because translator should be in capital letter. Yeah, so translator. So let's run again. So you see enter a word or phrase to translate. So I put, for example, good afternoon, everyone. And then I click on enter. So now I have to enter the target language that I want to translate to. So if I want to translate to German, you can see German here is DE. And then I enter DE and I click on enter. So you see it is translated to German. But if I want to translate that to French, for example, I enter this and then French is FR, and then it's translated to French. What if I want to translate to Spanish, for example? Copy and then enter. Spanish is ES, and here we have it in Spanish. So there we have it. This is a project for translating from English to other languages. So try it out. There are also different ways to do it. You can use the Google Cloud or something, but I may choose to import from the translator library since we already have that. But try different methods and also try to translate from other languages to English and put it to your solution in the comment section. Thank you and bye for now. Hey there, my name is Fumilayo from Beth Media, and today we'll be talking about generating passwords. So I will be showing you how to generate your unique password using Python. We'll be working in Jupyter Notebook, so there'll be two different ways to do it. One just generating random numbers, giving it the length of numbers or letters that you want. Another one is setting a condition where you want maybe an uppercase, a lowercase, digits, or special characters. We will be using the import string. We can see the documentation here. We can use string to get letters. We can use it to get numbers. We can even set to uppercase, lowercase, and so on. The first thing we will be doing is to import random because we want to generate random number, and like I said, we'll also be using the import string as an R. And next we would like to define our function. We will be working with functions. So I'll say function is generate password, and then we want to set the length of our password. So then we give that length is equal to 12. So we want our password to have 12 entries, 12 either numbers, alphabet. The total should be 12. So the next thing we would like to do is now to define the characters that we want in the password. So what do we want our password to contain? Remember that I said in the string you can basically use anything in the string, but we have to set what we want our password to be. So then string dot this is ASCII letters plus string dot digits plus string dot punctuation, like we have it here. So this is what we want our password to be. We want our password to have letters, to have numbers, and then to have punctuation. So then we would use our join to join the strings of our password. That's the next step. So I'd have password equals to join random dot choice character, and then for the range of our length here is 12. And because we're using a function, we have to return the password. Now we have our function. To get the result of our function, then we have to call the function. So our function is generate password. So now I'm calling my function generate password. So this is our result. You can run it as many times as you want, and then you would generate your password. Numbers, punctuations, and letters. So this is how you can easily generate your password. It generates it randomly. So sometimes you'd have letters, you'd have numbers, or you have it all together. But now, what if you want to be specific? You want to make sure that each category is represented once in your password. That's what we do next. So we've already imported our strings, and then let's define our function again. We have defined a function. So I'm setting uppercase. Remember, in the string documentation, we can set uppercase, lowercase, and then I want digits, and then I want special characters to be string dot punctuation. And now I want to make sure that each of these is represented at least once in my password. I want there to be at least one uppercase, one lowercase, one numbers, and one punctuation. I guess this is our password for if you want to create an account on websites and stuff. They're usually asking for special characters, digits, and then lower uppercase or lowercase. So this is it. I want to have a random choice of my uppercase letter, which I got from our import string, random choice of digits, random choice of special characters. Everything is in my tuple. So now I want to fill in the rest of my password. Remember that the password length is still 12. So now to fill in the rest. That so this would occupy 4 out of the 12 that we have for the length of our password. So I want to fill in the remaining 8. We have 8 characters left for the password. So the remaining length is now our length here, 12 minus 4. And then I want to join random choices to select randomly from the letters, string, and punctuation like we did here, string and punctuation, and then in the range of the remaining length. So the remaining length would now be random. So the remaining length might not even have one of this, but they would just be random choices. So now I want to shuffle the password to make it random. That's the next step. So we'll put it in our list and we have random.shuffle. So I want to be able to shuffle my password list and then I want to join it at the end. So finally, let's return password and call the function generate password. Yeah. So now run the function. Here you see we get our password. So we can see we have an uppercase, we have a lowercase, we have a number, and we have special characters. So that's what we did. We first defined what we want. We want an uppercase we will get from string, the digit, and the special character. And then we have to make sure that the category is represented once. So this is it. And then we have found the remaining length, which is the length here we defined 12 subtracted by 4 because we want this to occupy 111 space. So we have 8 left. And then we then join using our random choices of what we have left in the length of the range of the remaining length. And now we're trying to like shuffle the password to make it random so they would be in like random positions. And then we return and we generate our password. So that is the simplest way to generate random passwords. You can also try different methods. Let me know which method you will be trying. Hello there and welcome back. My name is Fumilayo from Beth Media, and in this video we will be generating QR code just like this. If you're ready, let's get started. We're going to be using the QR code library, so we're going to be installing this and we're going to be following this process to generate PNG files that contains our QR codes. That's what we'll be doing. So all the steps are listed in the library website, and then you can check it out. You can check this link out to learn more. So now let's go to our Jupyter notebook. The first thing that we would like to do is to install our library. So pip install QR code pill. So now it is successfully installed. Now the next step would be to import QR code. And now we want to create a QR code instance. We've been told how to do that here. This is how you create your QR code instance. So let's replicate that in our code. So we have the QR code which we imported. That QR code, we want to choose our version, which the version is from 1 to 40 and higher is denser. So we're choosing version 1. And then the error correction QR code dot constant dot error corrector L. So this is our error correction level. And then we now want to choose the size of the box in pixels, which is 10, and then the border around the QR code. So you can adjust this based on your requirements. But for now, I like to leave it like this. So now let's add our data to our QR code. In this case, we're adding a URL link to the QR code. So for URL, we have data. This is the website we would like to generate the URL of. And QR dot add data. This is our QR that is generating the QR code instance. And we want to add this data to it. So how then do you now make your QR code? You click QR dot make open bracket fit equals to true. So this is how you make your QR code. Now the next step would be to create an image object for your QR code instance. So we want to create an object, we want to choose a color, a background color, our fill color, and etc. So this is our image QR. What this make image fill color. So we want our fill color to be black and we want the back color to be white. So QR code black and the back color to be white. So now we have created our QR code. How then do we now save it? So let's save the QR code image here dot save and then open a bracket and we give it our file name qr dot png. And now let's show the QR code image dot show. And if I run this, we should have a QR code. So now let's run this. And see, we do have our QR code. You can scan this code that you see on screen and it should take you to the Best Media website. So this is the simplest method of creating a QR code following the QR code library instructions. First, you install the QR code and then you import it and then you get the QR code control code, the version, the error correction, the box size, and the border, and you add your data, and then you make your image, your fill color black and your back color white. Or you can also set different colors for it, and it has different instruction for other things you can do, and you save it in a PNG file. So that's it. Hello and welcome back to our Python project for beginners. In this video, we will be working on temperature conversions. As you can see, this is the temperature conversion formulas that we'll be using in our Python code. So we will be converting from Celsius to Kelvin, Kelvin to Celsius, Fahrenheit to Celsius, Celsius to Fahrenheit, and so on. So if you're ready, let's get started. Welcome back. So we will be using our Jupyter notebook and we're trying to convert our values to different temperature SI units. So from Celsius to Fahrenheit, from Fahrenheit to Kelvin, from Kelvin to Fahrenheit. So we'll be having 6 functions in total. So let's write the functions. So first we have from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Remember the picture I showed earlier. So this is the calculation. So whatever value we give there, we multiply it by 9, divide by 5, and then we add the result to 32. So we've done from Celsius to Fahrenheit to then convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. We have another function that does exactly the opposite of this. So here we subtract 32 from the Fahrenheit and we multiply it by 5 divided by 9. And then we move to from Celsius to Kelvin. I know Celsius to Kelvin, you just add 273 to the value. So we have our Celsius plus 273.15. And then when we have from Kelvin to Celsius, which is the opposite, we will subtract 273.5 from our value. So now we have four functions. What is left is from Fahrenheit to Kelvin and from Kelvin to Fahrenheit. So this is our function to convert from Fahrenheit to Kelvin. From Fahrenheit to Kelvin, we then take the Fahrenheit to Celsius and then we return the Celsius to Kelvin. So we convert it first to Celsius and then convert it to Kelvin. And now from Kelvin to Fahrenheit, this is what we have from Kelvin to Fahrenheit. From Kelvin to Fahrenheit. So when we have our value, I want to convert it to Fahrenheit. We first convert it to Celsius and then convert it to Fahrenheit. Then I want to have my input because I want the user, whoever uses the code, to be able to like enter the temperature value that they will want to convert. So there will be two inputs. One will be able to input the value, and the second will want to be able to input the units of that value. So first I'm using my input. I know I'm choosing it to be float because in normal sense we have temperature with a decimal point. So this will take in the temperature value that the users input. But when you input a value, I need to know the SI unit of that value that you're trying to input. So then I would have another input to take the SI unit of the value. So I want the user to be able to enter the unit, either the temperature value that was inputted the first time was Celsius, Fahrenheit, or Kelvin. So now if I've gotten the value, this is where I use my if statement. I want to be able to determine if it is Celsius, then I want it to be able to convert Celsius to Kelvin and Celsius to Fahrenheit. And then if the person chose Fahrenheit, I want to be able to convert Fahrenheit to Kelvin and Fahrenheit to Celsius. And if they choose Kelvin, I want to convert Kelvin to Fahrenheit and Kelvin to Celsius. So I would have four if statements. And then if they entered the wrong values, I want them to know that they've entered the wrong value. So this is my first if statement. If the unit that was entered in the input is Celsius, then I want to have the Fahrenheit temperature. So I want it to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So taking our function, so once you enter your value and your SI units here, so if it is Celsius, we have made it to lower. So no matter what they enter, it's going to be in lowercase. So if it is Celsius that is entered, then it goes to our function, our Celsius to Fahrenheit function, and then it's computed. And it also goes to our Celsius to Kelvin, and then computes the result, and then it prints out the result. But what is the same thing if it is Fahrenheit or if it is Kelvin that was entered in the SI unit. That is so similar to it. If the unit is Fahrenheit or if it's Kelvin, then it goes back to this function, computes the result, and then print out the result for the rest. But what if the user then inputted something wrong or wrong text or something? I want to be able to prompt a message that the wrong value was entered. So that will be my else statement. So if a wrong value is entered, then you get invalid unit. So now let's run our code. So I run this, enter your temperature value, and then I enter 20. 20 is my temperature value. But then what is the SI unit of this 20? What does this 20 mean? Is it in Celsius? Is it in Fahrenheit? Or is it in Kelvin? And this is in Celsius. So 20 degrees Celsius, and then when you click enter, we should get the temperature equivalent in Fahrenheit and in Kelvin. So when you run this, you see this is what 20 degrees Celsius is in Fahrenheit and what 20 degrees Celsius is in Kelvin. Remember, our Kelvin is 273, so 273 plus 20 is 293. You can also try it for others, but so let's say 25, and then I put like if maybe I wrongfully spelled this, and then we get that invalid unit, enter the correct unit. We run this again, and then 30, and then Celsius, and then you get your equivalent in Fahrenheit and in Kelvin. So this is the simplest method to create a temperature converter, converting from the three SI in between the three SI units. You're able to collect the temperature, allow the user to input the temperature, and also input the unit of the temperature, and then you convert it to the other two units. Let me know what you think and